I'm very proud of the fact that we haven't really changed how we do things. You know, it's the boys that I grew up with, like we've been friends since we were 12, and they're still the same people I'm doing this with. First ever tour manager, still tour managing us. First ever, like it feels like a family. I'm really proud of the fact that we've just stuck to our guns the whole time and been able to, because we have that core kind of family around us, we're lucky enough to make music that we just like. I think a lot of people are kind of pushed to do something or to work with a certain person, and I'm proud of that we've just kind of done it on our own terms. But it's a lot of luck. I gotta say it.
Welcome to Making Conversation with me, Grant Brydon, a podcast about music, creativity and careers. For this series, I've sat down with a range of artists and creative professionals in order to learn about how their unique experiences and perspectives can help us in our own creative and business practices. For this episode, I spoke to singer, songwriter and producer Dave Bayley. Dave is the lead singer and producer of Glass Animals, who were in the middle of a US tour when the COVID-19 pandemic hit. They packed their stuff into a van, returned to London, and have adapted quickly to the lockdown, keeping themselves and their fans entertained through a bunch of creative projects, including a series of covers, film nights, and an open source website that allows fans to use elements of Glass Animals' work to spark their own creations. Recorded via Facetime from Dave's studio, we talk about how creativity is helping him cope with the pandemic, his roots as a producer, and how collaboration has inspired him to be more personal with the band's new material. I saw that post where you'd said, or someone from the band had said, that it's crazy to think 3 weeks ago you were on tour in the US. I just wanted to revisit that moment.
Oh, yeah.
What was that like?
It's mad to think about. We were in the middle of this tour. We were doing this underplay tour back to our roots. The first tour we ever did of America was us crammed into the back of a little Toyota Camry with all of our gear on our laps, just driving ourselves around 7 hours a day, venue to venue. And after Joe, our drummer, had his accident, we thought it would be a good way to kind of, I think when you have an accident like that, you lose a lot of confidence in things that you expect from your body daily. You expect to be able to talk, you expect to be able to walk, you expect to be able to run, and he expected to be able to you take those things for granted. So that all got taken away, and he obviously lost confidence in all of that, including his drumming a bit. So we thought it would be a really nice way to wean him back into the live scene by redoing that first tour we ever did.
Right.
So we went back and played these tiny little venues, playing we played a kid's garage on that tour and a house party in Kansas. And so we went back, we did all that, and then we got about halfway through and coronavirus hit. And I remember looking at prices of getting a flight back, and just every hour it was going up. 100 quid every hour, and we're just we got to get out of here. They're banning flights. They're banning, every gig is illegal now because no gatherings over 150 people are allowed. So we just put everything out of our trailer into the middle of the road, put that on another truck, sent that over to a warehouse, and we got the next flight out.
Right. What was it that made you kind of realize that it was serious? Because I guess there was that big sort of period of kind of grey area where people were still playing shows, and some people were saying it was going to be more serious, some people were saying it wasn't. Yeah,
I always had it in the back. Basically, I did a lot of science when I was a kid, and I actually did it a part of I got halfway through a medical degree before I started doing this music thing. And so a couple of my friends are doctors. They were like, this is going to be bad. In January, they were like, this is going to spread. This is going to be huge, and you have to have an escape plan. And I guess when we got to California, we played an LA show, and then we drove up to San Francisco and got there, and they basically banned all the gatherings over 200 people. We were like, this is it. We've got to go. And seeing them I think when Donald Trump made his announcement about banning all international travel in and out except for from England.
Yeah.
So it was pretty lucky. It was a close shave, and then we just as soon as he said that, we were out.
Yeah.
And it was a real shame. Like, I was loving that tour. Was so fun. So fun. I loved it.
Yeah.
And it would have been amazing to finish it.
How many dates had you done then at that point?
We did maybe like 2/3 of them. So I think we'd done 18 or something like that.
Yeah.
Sad not to finish it off.
And so I guess even at that point, when you returned to the UK, it wasn't as serious as it is now in terms of quarantine and lockdown and stuff. So did you come straight back home, or what was it like that first part when you came back to the UK?
Well, I wanted to be careful personally, just because we'd been on like flights and traveling around, meeting loads of people. Those venues are like so cramped, so you're around so many people, and then going to parties afterwards and stuff. Like, there's a good chance I had it, so I didn't want to like go see my mum or anything. Yeah. So I would see my friends. So I just quarantined myself away in my house, in my studio, which I'd kind of been doing anyway, working on music before that tour. So it was just back to that, really. We all quarantined ourselves for a couple of weeks. And at that point, at the beginning of that quarantine period, I think the UK was still a bit behind the rest of the world in terms of their reaction. And then by the end of that 2 weeks, it was lockdown. Yeah.
So it feels like you've adapted like super quickly to the situation. I wondered how you feel like you were equipped to do that so quickly.
I guess we've adapted in terms of like put a lot of stuff out. I just started making covers in here. I was lucky enough to be like quarantined in here.
Yeah.
Like my bedroom's there above me, and so I like don't even have to put on trousers to come make music. I can just wake up in the middle of the night, 4 a.m. in my pants, and come down and make some stuff. And it's kind of what I do anyway. So I was just immediately able to make stuff and make music and back to that routine.
Yeah.
It's quite natural.
You made a comment about obviously with the equipment being, a lot of it being in America, you're slightly more limited to what you have to work with.
Yeah. We, as I said, we dumped everything into this truck and kind of left it in a warehouse in the States. So it's still over there. But I got a few things shipped. I got my favorite guitar shipped back, which took a while. It took a couple of weeks. I've got a guitar now that works. That's great. But otherwise, I was just stuck with what we didn't take on tour.
Yeah.
So I have like got this Mellotron that I love, this old Teenage Engineering OP1, and a really old vintage Beatles bass, and this Roland drum machine from the 70s. I don't know if you can see it over there.
Yeah.
There it is. They're great bits of kit. And you know what was really refreshing was actually making music with like limitations. Because I find nowadays anything's possible. Like, there's such a blank canvas that it's a black hole of a canvas. There's no easy place to start. There's no like rules. And Brian Eno had this thing where he made those cards. You ever seen them cards? That are like rule cards that you're meant to like pull a card at the beginning of your studio session, and it says like, today only use one string on a guitar or something, and it gives you a limitation. And having that limitation actually makes it's quite freeing. Otherwise you get stuck, because it's just like anything's possible with modern technology. So I've actually quite liked going back to these like old analog bits of kit that are really dysfunctional and really, they have their own quirks and are really limited. Like I can't make trap hats with this thing. So it's and I've found a new love for all those sounds. It's only got a kick drum sound, a bongo sound, a tambourine sound, and a clave sound. That's my drums.
Perfect. So once you got sort of settled into quarantine and kind of lockdown hit, what sort of like challenges did you start to realize that you were faced with personally and as a band?
Personally, I guess it was just dealing with like isolation and not really being able to go out. I like going out. I love seeing live music. That was all gone. But at the same time, when I make music, when I was making the last couple of albums, I do that anyway. I end up never seeing anybody and just like stuck in my house eating cereal all day, every day, and that's it. It's not washing, it's smelling. I guess making stuff kind of keeps you sane. I don't know, some people shout at their friend when they're frustrated, or shout at their mum or something, or shout at someone. And I'm lucky enough to be able to make some music to like this is like a good vent for frustration. So it was all right for me. As in terms of the band, I guess like our main worries were being able to take care of our crew and our family, because we had a huge tour lined up, and all of the crew and their families and stuff, like our live sound guy, our technicians and everything, they all kind of depended on that. And I think we've now worked out a way to like keep paying them through this time, and it's something we've been really lucky not to have to think about too much. We've been lucky on the live music front. There's always been we started really small, and then we've added people as it's grown, but it's never really dipped, and we've never had to, I don't know, like fire anyone or tell people we can't afford to pay them or something like that. And it kind of hit that point. But I think we've worked out a way to like keep the people that have been really close to us from the beginning really comfortable. And sadly, it does mean we're going to have to, like on the next tour, we won't have a big stage set up and stuff like that.
Right.
But that's the trade-off, and it's a worthwhile trade-off. I think live shows are going to change soon. These huge, super, super expensive pop shows with like custom sets and stuff. I don't know if that's going to be possible anymore.
I mean, you talked about creating, keeping you sane and stuff, and from like the outside, from our perspective, it looks like you obviously have been super productive through this time and created a lot of stuff. I wondered if there's ever been days though where it's just been a struggle and you've just had to sort of relax and not do anything or not put too much pressure on.
I think that's been important too. I have a bit of a tendency to like go into this hyper mode where I just lock myself in this room and don't think about the outside world, and that's definitely a bit unhealthy. So I've been trying to stop at a certain time. I've been trying to like do a 9 to 5.
Right. Yeah.
And like wake up, get dressed, wash, do stuff that normal people do, and kind of treat it almost like a job. And it's the first time I've ever done that.
Right.
But I thought it's probably a good way to structure it and to like find a way to cut a line in between working and still keeping a bit of a social life, like speaking to people like you, like this, on Facetime and stuff.
Yeah. Do you find yourself listening to a lot of other people's music and stuff while you're in quarantine, or are you just focused on creating?
I've been listening to a lot of stuff. Yeah. I've been because I was before the tour. I was locked away quite a while, just making stuff, writing. And when I'm writing stuff, I tend not to listen to anything else.
Right.
And so I feel like I've been playing catch up in this quarantine period. I'll do some writing until 5 o'clock, and then I'll just go listen to records that I missed. And there's a lot of good stuff that I missed. I missed like the Caribou record. That's a sensational record. It's incredible. I found out, listened to Arlo Parks, like discovered her. I've been telling people and friends to like send me new stuff that they've been listening to. And also loads of people have gotten in touch, people that I didn't expect to, because I think everyone's at home.
Right, yeah.
And wanting to do something. Maybe they've run out of weed and are like now able to focus. But loads of people have gotten in touch and like want to collaborate and things like that. Some of them I've never heard of before. Some of them I love. So I'm discovering a lot of new music that I really love. There's this girl called Grace Ives,
right,
that I've been listening to. She's amazing. She's really, really good. And a band called Chinatown Slalom. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, sometimes I'm reaching out to these people, like me and Chinatown have been talking. We might do something. Yeah.
Right.
It's a bit of a blank landscape. See what happens. Yeah. And it feels like there's no pressure as well. It's like 2 Inch Punch. Have you seen what he's doing? He's doing this like Pass the Beat project.
Right.
He's an amazing producer. He's done some amazing stuff, and he's just been sending like little snippets of beats to people and getting them to put something on it. It's like that. What's it called? Consequences. You ever done that? Where you fold the paper and you like draw a thing, and then someone extends the animal, and then someone draws the next bit, and you end up with some monster. He's been doing the musical version of that.
Okay. So
I've been doing a bit of that with him. I don't know, just having fun, and through that you end up discovering new people. He was telling me about this band called like Sad. What are they called? Sad. I can't find it now. I don't know. But everyone's sending me new shit, which is great.
Yeah. How's the collaborative process changed for you in this time, or would you always be kind of working alone and then sending stuff out?
I really like being in the room with people.
Yeah.
In terms of, I just think it's so much easier to talk and for people to be honest. You can read people's faces and have a proper talk about music. But at the same time, people seem to be more open to everything. And also, it's quite hard sometimes to get into a room with people when you're on tour and they're on tour and everyone's busy, basically.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden everyone's just at home and you seem to be able to, you can get people on the phone like this, as I said, and just people are happy to talk for an hour about music. It's really lovely.
So is that how you've been kind of doing it with people you're collaborating with, getting on FaceTime with them? Kind of. Yeah.
Everyone's just sending numbers over DM. And then they'll just ring me up or I'll ring them up and we'll talk about music for a bit. And it's a bit sad because you can't actually sit down at the keyboard and play something and be like, do you like that? And read their face. But you can still have that kind of pre-game chat where you talk about what you like, you find out what you have in common. Yeah. And go from there.
But it's still all kind of custom made for the person and not just you making sort of beat packs and then sending them out to people.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of beat pack stuff, but for the most part, this has been, me working with people that's the thing is no one really knows what for.
Yeah.
People, I've been quite happy with just releasing stuff, just making these covers and just putting them straight out. And I think a lot of people have taken to that mentality. There's no goal. It's not working for towards a specific project. It's just making music for the fun of it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, they're bored.
Yeah.
Being bored is important.
Right.
Basically, kind of opens your mind up. The pressure's sort of off because no one really knows what's going to happen. The landscape of releasing a record has changed, touring has changed, all this stuff. So everyone's just let's try some shit.
I guess because there's that uncertainty, so it's you can't even really plan a release at the moment because you don't know what's going to happen at all.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I'm doing with Arlo at the moment. We're working on something and we're going to try and as soon as it's done, we've just been should we just release it as soon as it's done? Yeah, all right. So that'll probably drop, I don't know, a few days.
Yeah. But I think it's also important that people are putting out music because as a music fan, it's good to have new stuff to listen to all the time. And I think some people have obviously been postponing things and wanting to hold their music, and it's understandable. But at the same time, I think getting new stuff and people being brave enough to share what they've been working on, I think is a really important thing in this time.
I think so. I think just people didn't really know what... Everyone was a bit shell-shocked for a minute.
Yeah.
Because what I didn't realise was someone told me, my manager was telling me yesterday, that streaming numbers just plummeted.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I assumed it would be the opposite. I thought everyone was going to be at home listening to new stuff like I was, but apparently it wasn't like that. So I think labels obviously knew that and were a bit let's not release anything for a bit. But now, no one knows what the heck's going to happen.
Yeah.
So put stuff out.
Yeah. I think the streaming numbers thing is interesting because from looking into it a little bit, I believe that's more sort of casual listeners who aren't on their commute and things like that, whereas people who are music fans and who are a bit more plugged in, if you've got sort of a cult fan base and stuff, then they're looking for stuff to listen to.
That's a good point. I guess I didn't really think that far into it, but that is probably bang on, isn't it? It's the commuters not listening to the hot hits playlist or something.
Yeah. So the covers, obviously, we've mentioned them a couple of times, but where did that idea of doing these quarantine covers come from? What was the first one you sat down to do was Nirvana, right?
Yeah, it was Nirvana. I basically found myself when I was stuck in here for the first week or whatever, listening to a lot of new stuff, as I said, and then a lot of stuff that really made me feel comfortable, stuff that I grew up with that really I don't know, nostalgic stuff that made me feel at home. And that for me is Nirvana, it's Bill Withers. I did a Lana Del Rey cover. I grew up with that stuff, with her stuff. I think she's incredible. And I've been listening to a lot of I grew up in Texas, in America. So there was a lot of hip hop around. There's like a rap station. So I've been listening to a lot of like that, like Dr. Dre productions, basically.
Yeah.
Missy Elliott. Just, going back to stuff that makes me feel comfy for some reason. Everyone's looking for a bit of comfort, right?
What made you want to kind of go from like listening to it and getting that nostalgia to like actually sort of reinterpreting it?
I think it was just being a bit, not really knowing where to start. I quite often get into my studio and don't really know where to start. And I mean, that's a really easy place to start. The song's already written for you.
Yeah.
So you can just do it. And that seemed like a really obvious place to just get, wean myself from tour back into making music again. And started with, for some reason, the first thing that I put on when I was back, I went on a run and just put Nirvana on and listened to that. I did that by I run every day, and I just put Nirvana in every day. And I started hearing this like piano version of Heart-Shaped Box. So I just sat down and did it. The whole thing took like maybe an hour. And I was like, oh, this is such an easy way to do something. The song's already there, chords are already there, vocal lines are already there, lyrics are already there. Go boom, and then can turn them out in an hour. It's fun.
And then after that, you were doing like fan suggestions, right?
Yeah, just taking requests, because I figured, I don't know, people probably want to hear some of their favourite songs. So I did a couple. Someone recommended the Lana one, and it's just kind of where my taste lines up with someone else's. I'll just like scroll through the comments and be like, I love that song, do it. Someone requested Bill Withers because he passed away really sadly. He's like properly one of my heroes, so I tried my hand at that, and then a couple more coming.
Right.
A couple more in the works. But I think I'm overcomplicating it now. I'm like overthinking. I need to go back to the roots and just like do that thing where I just sit down and do it and give myself an hour and do it. Now I'm like, I don't know, I just tried to do one where I was making like a full drum beat and doing trap hats by like hitting this like bottle of slime with a pen. I've got loads of toys in I find they're good for like distracting you, having toys. And if you're like too focused, you kind of lose, you lose the big picture. And I tend to have the best ideas when I'm distracted by someone else. I've got like remote control cars and shit, and stuff to mess about with.
Yeah. So with the covers, because that's what I was going to ask you, how do you decide how far to go with it? Like, how do you, like you say, not overdo it? How do you choose what sort of stays kind of the same as the original song and what bits you change? I
guess I was limited, and I still am limited to the equipment that we talked about earlier, that the like basic stuff that's left in here. But I've sort of rinsed all of that, and I was looking for new ways. So I was getting a bit carried away with the slime and stuff. But I think I need to go back to just like doing it on this Mellotron, this drum machine, and that bass guitar, which was that was the original idea. It was the 3 bits of equipment that I had, that and a vocal mic. I think I'm going to return to that. Those limitations are so important, I think.
Yeah. And then obviously today you've actually released them on streaming services. When did you decide sort of to take it, I guess, to the next level of them? Because I guess originally they were kind of Instagram content and just stuff for people to watch. Now you can actually add them to playlists and stream them. Yeah,
it started as just that was what it was going to be. I was going to do them on Instagram Live, but then literally everybody was doing Instagram Live. Like I was just like logging into Instagram, and there's like that person, like everybody was live at the same time. It's like, this is such a head fuck. Like, let's just put it on the actual feed, and people can just watch it whenever they have a second if they want to. And then people seemed to like it, and I got a call from the label. They were like, can we put this on Spotify? I was like, yeah, all right. Can you do some artwork for it? I was like, yeah, all right. I just had a Polaroid camera here.
Right.
And I just like, boom, took the picture, put some graphics on it in Photoshop, and that's it. It's just like, it's quite DIY.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
And then I guess the next step of what you've put out today is this open source website. When did you come up with the idea for that?
Yeah, that was again like going back to when I came back to the studio and was struggling to find. I find getting a starting point is super tricky.
Yeah.
The canvas is so open with modern technology. You can do anything. There's so many music programs. They all do incredible things that were totally impossible 10 years ago. There's a plugin for everything. There's no like... I spend a lot of time looking for raw materials, like something that inspires the rest of the recording, the rest of the song, or the rest of the art. If I'm doing the artwork for that song, the rest of that piece of artwork. Like I've got this like stack of magazines at the back. I don't know if you can see behind my shoulder there.
Yeah.
It's just like a bunch of zines. I find zines, like I go into like there are a bunch of like DIY art shops around. And I just go and pick up the zines that are made by like amateur artists, and you just flip through and it's all like really haphazard art. But sometimes you see like a little nugget and that'll inspire like the artwork for, you know, you're like, oh, I love the way they've done that font.
Right.
You can kind of pull from that, adjust it, reappropriate it, like transform it into something totally different. Quite often you just, like, I do this with samples a lot. Like I find a sample or a song that I really like and I'll sample it and then I'll make such a silly, disgusting monster out of it. I'll just take the sample out at the end and then you have something that's completely different. But it's finding those little like nuggets that give you that bite point when you're making something. And that's what the open source site is about. It's like all of the rawest little bits from all of our songs, all of our artwork, everything. The code for the websites, if people are into coding and don't know where to start or need an idea or want to steal like a certain function on the website. We've done some like weird video games and stuff. You can steal some of that code and put that into a video game. There's like the latest artwork was made in this 3D cinema program that they use to like make all the 3D graphics in movies and stuff. And I just you can scan your head with your phone.
Right.
So I scanned my head with my phone and scanned a bunch of shit from around my house that I liked and then just threw it into this program. And so all of those 3D scans are like, you can download them, you can animate it so my head explodes, so my head turns to jelly and you like melt it. It's just like all the raw stuff, all the stems from songs, drum sounds, things like that. I end up running around my house doing things like hitting that slime. I mean, that's a shit sound, really. But I don't know, maybe there's another sound, like trying to find a sound that'll like make it. This is kind of fucking disgusting, actually. It's not making any appealing sound. It just makes fart noises, squelch noises. But sometimes you're like fucking around, you find a sound that's cool and interesting and unique, and you can. It just starts the process off. So this is all of those things that could maybe like start that process for someone else. I don't know. As I said, making stuff is kind of keeping me sane a bit. So if this makes it slightly easier for someone else to find a starting point to make something, that's the dream. That's the goal.
Obviously, in a time when artists are generally so worried about copyright and stuff, was that a concern at all, giving all that stuff away? Or was that a concern maybe for the label and a discussion
They're
you
probably,
had to have?
I bet they're shitting bricks right now. I don't know. No, I don't think so. They've been incredibly helpful in doing it and allowing us to put the artwork stuff up there and all the like layered Photoshop file. Like technically they own that stuff because they paid for it, I guess. I don't know how it works. And they've been really generous. I guess the idea is use that as a jumping off point. And people sample stuff. That's cool. If you keep something from if you keep a vocal chop from one of our songs in, chances are we'll let you have it. The label might say otherwise. I don't care. But you can take it out and replace it with your own. Like just use it as like a tool, and then get rid of it.
Yeah. I saw that you've been having like weekly movie nights too.
Yeah. We have been.
When did you start those, and who chooses the films?
I've been choosing the movie. I love movies. I took a bit of time when our drummer got injured. I had a bit of spare time on our hands. He was like, go to LA. It's going to take me a few months to recover. So I went to LA and I just did some random stuff. I love movies and I love cartoons and TV. So I went there and I like did some of that stuff. I did some like theme songs for cartoons and like random stuff like that. And it just comes from my love of that world. I quite often, like when I was making the second album, I had a projector up and it was just playing these weird documentaries, and I would just like sit and like play along. I'd do my own like soundtrack. So I'm just obsessed. I love movies. So we did that. We've done like, what did we do? Okja. Do you know that movie?
Yeah.
That was the last one. That's by the same people who did Parasite.
Right.
And then we did Spirited Away.
Yeah.
But that got hacked, actually. The Netflix party got hacked. And it was freaking weird. Just started showing everybody those Julian Assange WikiLeaks videos of like the army dropping bombs on people. It was really dark. So we're not using that Netflix party app anymore. We're just putting a movie poster up and saying we're starting at 8. That's about it.
Yeah. And the mailing list too, you've been doing some interesting stuff with.
Oh yeah, there's 3 other boys in the band and we just send letters to each other. Quite ridiculous. I just wrote mine for Joe. It got heavily censored by the label. They've just sent it back actually. They said take all the stuff about dicks out. So I've got to take all the bit about dicks out. It wasn't that bad. We basically we were in San Francisco. I was talking about like the first tour we ever did and going to San Francisco and not being able to play that show this tour because it got cancelled. But the first time we were there, this guy came up to us and he was like, "Hey babies," and we were like, "Oh hey," and he was like getting really close and following right behind us, and he kept trying to like shout at Drew, our guitarist. And he was like, "Come over here, baby," and Drew turned around and realized that this guy had like a massive boner poking out, and he wasn't wearing any trousers. It was just poking out from under his t-shirt. Yeah. I was just talking about that in the email. They didn't like it.
What sparked that idea of sending letters to each other via the mailing list?
I don't know. I think it was Ed, our bass player. We kind of take turns writing to the mailing list mailers anyway. And Ed, our bass player, just for some reason got inspired to write a letter to Drew as part of as the mailer. It was clever. And then it just started this like vicious cycle of us sending each other more and more ridiculous letters.
It feels like all of this stuff though adds to this really engaged fan base that you have. And scrolling through the Instagram posts and Twitter and stuff, how like, you know, bummed out fans were when the shows got cancelled and how people are like commenting on the mailing list and all that kind of thing. At what point did you start to kind of like build this kind of engagement with the fans?
We've always been quite like, because we started pretty rough and ready, this whole project, you know, we've always been talking to our fans at shows and stuff. Like our first shows, they were like, we played one show in Leeds, I think, Liverpool, and there were 2 people there, and one of them was one of my friends. Like, it started bad. So we've always been quite close with the people who came to those first shows. And when we did that first American tour, you know, the people who were there, like we remember them because there was no one else there. It was really awkward and it was funny, and we'd like go out with them afterwards and laugh about it afterwards. And I don't know, we've always been quite just, speaking to those people. So there's people who are with us and they are sweet. They help us out a lot. A lot of the people who run the fan accounts, like when our Netflix party got hacked, this girl called Amber who runs one of the fan accounts was like, "Oh, my dad is an internet security person. I'm just gonna ask him what's happened." And he did some research and found out, helped us out and like told us what had gone on.
You obviously care about the fans in the way that you're doing this open source stuff. So how important do you think that is for a band to sort of stay connected to those people?
I think it's important. I mean, the main thing it's not about like being connected to your fan base. That's like I think that's probably how the label would say it. It's more, I don't know, I think it's just staying grounded and recognizing that you're really, really, really lucky to be doing what you're doing, and the people who got you there, you should be nice to.
Yeah.
And ultimately, these people have just become our friends, a lot of them. end up meeting them loads, and it's just nice. They're just good people. Yeah, that's it. Just keep good people close. That's all.
If you could go back to the end of last year and know that you'd be locked down from March, was there anything you would have done differently with the start of 2020?
Ooh. Yeah, probably quite a lot. I think in a very cynical, we're going to be okay, but in a very cynical financial way, that there was one festival at the end of that little tour that we were going to play that was going to pay for the whole of that little tour, and it got cancelled.
Right.
And so it was tough. It was tough financially. And I'm not saying we're in a unique position. Some people are going to have it so much worse, and we luckily could swallow that bullet. But it would have obviously made things a lot more comfortable for the rest of the band, for the crew that I was talking about, to have done that, found another way to pay them all really well. And I'm trying to think about what else. I don't know, creatively, we kind of started launching our album. There's a new project coming. I think anyone can see that. If we've been releasing songs. We had this tour lined up. I don't know. I would have probably either put it out at the beginning of the year or not started the release.
Right.
Because I like to see albums as they're like a universe, they're a world, and it extends into a live show. It extends into the artwork. It extends into the website. Everything. That's the album, and the music. It all comes from the music. The music is the focal point, and it's a bit disjointed right now, maybe.
Right.
But we've got. I think, we just had to recoup, and we're gonna kind of relaunch the whole thing soon.
Because obviously last year you had the 2 singles that sort of, I guess, start off that kind of world. What was it about? Launching with Tokyo Drifting, it was quite a change, I'd say, or quite a different pace. What was it about that made you want to sort of get started?
Well, Tokyo Drifting that's a totally different thing.
Oh, that's totally separate.
Not even part of the album.
Okay.
Yeah, that was just fun with Denzel. That's kind of part of this series. We've done a series of things called Fresh Fruit.
Right.
And they're all collaborations that are probably a bit too different to fit on an album. So there's there's one with Teishi. Do you know her?
Yeah.
There's one with Joey Badass. There's just a couple of these things lying around. And then Tokyo Drifting was kind of following on from that. Doesn't really have anything to do with the next project.
Right.
It's a bit of a one-off. It was a bit of a let's see if people still want to listen to our music.
Right. What was it that got you working with Denzel Curry then?
I've been nagging him for ages.
Right.
That's it. Yeah. I just nagged him over the internet for quite a long time. And then eventually one of my friends was on tour with him, got that friend to play him this beat. He was like, what's this? And he was like, this Glass Animals, I think they want you to do something on it. And then he hit back straight away. And we just spoke briefly, and then he's fast, he's so good, he's super pro. We come from a similar, I don't know, a lot of the same things growing up in terms of late 90s, early 2000s cartoons and movies and that kind of stuff. And you can kind of hear it in his lyrics. We just had a lot of the same references.
References, yeah. Did you record that one? Were you in the room with him, or did he send the verse over?
He sent that over. Yeah, we were in China on tour, and he's a busy dude. We lined up for the music video, which was wicked. He just happened to be in New York for one day. And
Right.
I was in New York for that day, and we were like, oh my, let's do the video now. And we did it. But we're gonna do a bunch of shows. We're gonna do these shows at Red Rocks together. I don't know if you know that venue is the best venue in the world.
Right, where's that?
It's in Colorado, weirdly,
Okay.
but it's like up a mountain.
Right.
And it's so high up this mountain that like you can't breathe properly. Like the oxygen is a problem. So you have to breathe like twice as much when you're singing and rapping. And so if Denzel's rapping, it's really hard. It's a proper workout.
Right.
Because I forget how many thousand feet it is. A couple thousand, like a few thousand feet. But it's gorgeous. It's incredible, and the view is nuts. Sounds incredible. It's like this. It's up a mountain face, so you just walk out on the stage, and you're at the bottom of the mountain, and then everyone else is up the top. It's just this wall of humans. So walking out there is incredible. We're going to do these 2 shows there that was going to be the launch of our album.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know if it's going to be able to happen now.
Okay. So I guess the question I asked before should have been directed at Your Love. So what was that? What was it about that made you want to launch with it?
I kind of get to a point making an album where I'm a bit numb to everything. Like I it's like choosing your favorite child or something to go out first. Choosing your first child. I don't know. It's a hard analogy to make. Basically, I think I'm probably the worst person to choose a first single.
Right.
So I normally say like, it should probably be this one, or this one. I have no perspective left on this anymore. Because quite often my heart leans towards the one that's like the freshest, the newest.
Yeah.
Because it's fresh to me. But to everyone else, everything's new. So I usually just get like managers and the label to give as much input as they can. And I just say, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Do it. So they actually chose that one. I think it's got a kind of bumpy beat, cool flute riff, I like that one a lot, but I've heard it so many times.
Yeah.
It's hard to know. And I there's some songs I'm really excited about. Just like that one also kind of leans back a little bit towards what we'd done before.
Right.
I think that's probably why they wanted to go with it first, because it's a little bit more familiar. Some of the new stuff is weird. Some of it's I don't know how to explain it. It's different. It's really different.
Right.
And I'm excited for people to hear it. Basically, yeah. There are definitely songs that would have been more like a kind of whoa, what is that, right, to come back with.
Yeah.
But I think we've been away for a while, and they were like, let's put something familiar out, relatively familiar sounding out.
I noticed on those 2, and I might be reading into this way too much, but I noticed on those 2 songs, the genre is listed as pop rather than alternative, and I wondered if that was something intentional, whether that was sort of to
is
do
it?
With
I don't.
You did. That wasn't something that was. Yeah. Okay. I just didn't know if that was something that you'd kind of like considered, and whether that was to do with the direction. No,
I haven't thought about that, to be honest. I think genre is a little bit. Does anyone care anymore?
That's why I kind of think pop is kind of the best genre in a way, because it doesn't actually mean anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not into the genre thing, and I know that it's still useful for like the purposes of playlisting and stuff like that. But I don't know. I see some playlists, and you know what? That music doesn't even hold together. None of this is rock.
Right. Yeah.
Listening to like an indie rock playlist, you're like, this is what, the internet, the band The Internet is on there, and like then there's like a Steve Lacy track and a Vampire Weekend track. You know, I kind of get that, but like it's everything, and yeah, the genres are all blurred, and that's what's amazing about music right now.
I wondered, outside of Glass Animals project, if it's important for you to have your own kind of other outlets, because you've obviously been doing other production under your own name. Yeah,
I've been dipping my toe in, and it's a crazy world that I try to just do stuff that feels quite natural, rather than like go to LA and get sessions.
Yeah.
There's definitely a culture of that. You know, people go out to LA and just do session, like 2 sessions a day. And I think that can be quite demoralizing and weird. I like working with people that I like and people that I know and people that I'm friends with, and something we gotta have something in common.
You did Seasons on the Black album. How did that come about?
He was playing a festival in New York. He was doing Panorama Festival, and I think he was playing right before us. It was just I don't know, something like that. And he stayed and watched our show, and he just sent some flame emojis on Twitter. That was it. That was the beginning. That was the whole thing. And I think we went, where did we go? Then we went to South America, and I was hanging out with this guy, LJ, he's an amazing, incredible bass player, but he was touring, he was with The Weeknd playing bass for him. And he was like, oh yeah, I know basically the fire emojis like landed, and I was like, oh shit, look at this. And he was like, oh shit, I know his manager, and he linked me with his manager, and she linked me to him, and that was the beginning. And then he was doing his album in LA, and I was going back via LA, and I went and he had this big place rented out, and it was crazy. I just went there, played some stuff, and it happened.
So did you make that from scratch there with him, or?
No, I played him a couple little bits, a couple little nuggets, and he was like, send me that. And then I was like, cool, let me fix them all up first. I don't remember what I played him of that beat. I think it might have just been like the chords. Right. And then I went away and I added the drums and stuff and sent it back over to him. Okay. And then he had someone that had his other producers he's got his kind of core team over there who are incredible. There's like Singard and Jacob, I think. I don't remember who else was working on that. Okay. Yeah, but sick people, really incredible producers, and they kind of have their hands all over all of it, making it all tie together. Mm.
And then did Khalid get added later?
Yeah, I didn't know that was happening. Right. And that was just like, whoa, sick. I remember hearing his voice on it for the first time. It's just like, wow, dude can sing. And those like gospel harmonies took it to another planet. But it's one of those beats where like I'm glad I didn't. I think a lot of the time I fall into this trap of trying to add too much. Mm. But it's just one of those beats where I left a lot of space, and I think that was the appeal, and that's what allowed, Khalid has so much more space to work in that scenario. Yeah. Basically, that's what I recommend to anyone doing that kind of thing. Just leave space. If you're iffy about a part, take it out. Just give like the raw core elements.
So creatively, do you get something different out of doing that kind of work than doing it where you know that you're going to have to sing on it or you're going to have to write lyrics to it and things like that?
Definitely. Yeah. I find writing songs and stuff, when you're not singing, it's a lot easier. Right. I don't know why. It's because you can be really personal and you're not singing. So it's like you're removed right. by a degree. You can be really personal, you can get really emotional, and it's quite freeing in that way. And quite often with production stuff, you're trying to like realize someone else's vision. Like sometimes you're working with someone who doesn't quite know exactly how they want their record to sound, but they have ideas, they have references, they have sounds they like, and you're not the person doing that filtering. You can play a bunch of sounds to them, and they can be like, I like that one, I don't like that one, I like that one, I don't like that one. But when you're doing that to yourself, it's a tough thing to do. Like yeah. You're like, do I like that sound? I don't know. Do I like this sound? It's really refreshing, really quick to work with other people, especially if they know what they like. Yeah. It's fun.
And do you find that the experience you've had going away and working with other people then feeds back into the work you do as Glass Animals?
So much. I've learned so much from everybody I've worked with. They don't even know it as well. I sheepishly thank them, but like people have taught me so many things. Like Black, for instance, taught me so much about writing. Like he's so personal in his writing, and that was what made me want to try that on this new album that I've been doing for the Glass Animals project. It's so much more. It's super, super, super personal. It goes back to like my life in Texas, growing up as a kid, and growing up from that first memory until now, really.
Yeah.
I've just been pulling from all those weird things that happen when you grow up. It's like he basically opened my mind to this huge bank of stuff that you can write about, and it's so easy to write about. Thanks, everybody.
Whereabouts in Texas was it that you grew up?
Oh, it was a little shitty place. No one will know. It's called College Station.
Right.
Bryan, College Station. It's like there's like two little towns next to each other. College Station's a bit bigger. There's a university there called Texas A&M.
Right.
Yeah. And the A&M stands for like agricultural and mechanical or something. So it's like it's cows. But it's a great place to be a kid. Yeah, there's loads of space. You can run around. There's nature. Things are cheap. But then when you're a teenager, you get a bit stuck because everything's miles away. And I was lucky enough at that point when I was 13 to move to England, where you can like walk to a music venue. Yeah. You don't need to ask your mum to drive you.
I just wondered when you mentioned the hip hop stations before, whether there was any of the like local, Houston rap and the Texas music has influenced you at all.
Yeah, what was I was into like, where's Aesop Rock from? Is he from Texas?
Aesop Rock's from New York, but I think lives in San Francisco. Yeah.
Right. I got into like, I remember getting into that really early in Texas.
Right.
I don't know why.
So the kind of independent like rap scene.
I was into that, and I was like, basically, I started listening to like there were two or three stations there. There was like a country music station, kind of rocky station, hip hop rap station. I like the bass, to be honest.
Yeah.
I love the sound. Well, I love the way that music makes you feel, the way those drums make you feel, the way that bass makes you feel. I remember getting a boombox and like turning it up to max and turning the bass all the way up to max, and just like being like, oh, you can feel this shit. You can feel that snare. You can feel that kick. You can feel that sub. And so I gravitated toward that station, and I think it was all the kind of like stuff that was on radio, Missy Elliott, everything, Snoop, everything that like Timbaland and Pharrell and the Neptunes and Dr. Dre made and produced. And through that, I think I got more into like the Aesop Rock and the Mad Villain. I got obsessed with that Mad Villain record and the Doom stuff, and Mad Lib is like, no, God. Yeah, I ended up researching like what all those like Scott Storch and what all these people did, and trying to like find YouTube videos of them.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that Jay-Z and Timbaland video in the studio. Have you seen that?
The one from the Magna Carta album?
No, it's Dirt Off Your Shoulder.
Okay, yeah,
and,
right.
And Timbaland's like playing a bunch of beats. They're all like hits, like pure hits. He plays like a Buster, I forget what beat it was, like Buster beat and then something else, and then he plays the Dirt Off Your Shoulder beat, and just like the reaction in the room is and that, I was like, I want to do that.
But did you first start making music when you started to learn guitar?
Yeah, that was like my first way in. I guess it was quite late in the day. I was like 16 or something. I remember my cousin played guitar, and he bought me one. I asked him if he could buy me one. He bought me one. Since it's been stolen, that guitar, really annoyingly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my way in, was guitar, and then I got GarageBand.
Yeah.
On like a really, really old hand-me-down laptop, and it could only run like 4 tracks at a time. But I remember messing around with GarageBand and that guitar, just recording through the laptop's microphone. It was like one of those really old white MacBooks.
Right,
remember them?
Yeah. Plasticky kind of.
The plasticky ones. Yeah. It was a piece of shit. It was terrible. And I remember the battery didn't work. Like the battery was spent, so it was plugged in. It was basically a desktop.
I remember. I had one of those.
I was recording through the laptop mic. So that's how we made our first EP.
Right.
Was through the laptop mic. Everything like guitar recorded like that. Like it was super lo-fi. And GarageBand was the way. Did like some of the first album in GarageBand.
So what would you say has been the most difficult thing that you've had to overcome so far in your career?
There's a lot. I'm not naturally a very like confident person. I think I hated performing.
Right.
So much. I absolutely hated it for the first 2 years. I just couldn't. I freaked out. I would shake so much before going on stage. I'd feel sick. I'd go pee like 10 times. And then eventually we went to South by Southwest, and that was like the break point where we had 8 shows in 4 days or something.
Right.
And I couldn't even think about being nervous. There was just too many shows to be nervous. I was nervous for the first one, and then it was just like, let's get through this shit. And that just got rid of those nerves. And then we found a really amazing manager. That's a huge thing. I was really lucky. I hate the idea of like advertising something I've made. It really freaks me out. And I think that was a big thing, finding the band boys as well. That was the big thing. And that initial push that they gave me, and that our manager, who's still our manager today, that push that they gave me to like put the music out on the internet and have the confidence in it, that's the luckiest thing that's ever happened to me. I'm really lucky. So lucky that I found that. I know lots of people who are endlessly more talented and able, but maybe they haven't found the right person, the right team, or something like that. And as soon as I can, I'll do everything I can to help those people.
Yeah.
If I find them. Quite often I'm wrong. I've tried to help those. You know, sometimes no one else likes the music that I like. I'll be like, this is amazing, listen to it, everyone. I play it on like every radio station that I do. I name drop them in every like interview like this. Just like, sometimes it's just for me.
What are you most proud of about what you've achieved so far?
These are hard questions, man. This is digging deep. Proud of a lot. We didn't start. A lot of people, I think, you know, they are very natural, charismatic people, and they know people in music, and they find that we had no idea what we were doing. And I'm very proud of the fact that we haven't really changed how we do things. You know, it's the boys that I grew up with, like we've been friends since we were 12. And they're still the same people I'm doing this with. First ever tour manager, still tour managing us. First ever, like it feels like a family. I'm really proud of the fact that we've just stuck to our guns the whole time and been able to, because we have that core kind of family around us, we're lucky enough to make music that we just like. I think a lot of people are kind of pushed to do something or to work with a certain person, and I'm proud of that we've just kind of done it on our own terms. But it's a lot of luck.
Yeah.
I gotta say it.
Perfect. And lastly, what does success look like to you?
Success is being able to keep making music. I grew up, you know, my mum is like an Israeli Jewish mother who wanted me to be a doctor. Every Jewish mum wants their son to be like a doctor or a lawyer. And I never thought that making music was like a career option. So the goal for me, the dream and success is just being able to make another album. That's it. We're about to do our 3rd one now, and if we can do a 4th one, that's the success. If it's good enough to make another one, that's when it's successful.
Thank you for listening to Making Conversation with Grant Brydon featuring Dave Bayley. If you like this episode, then please be sure to rate, comment and subscribe wherever you're listening to podcasts. You can find Dave on socials at Glass Animals and listen to the Quarantine covers on all streaming services. You can find me on social media at Grant Brydon.